All right. Thank you for being here with us, guys.
Coast to coast, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We got Matt to come down to Miami a couple of months ago, and he packed the room. I mean, you were a hit in Miami.
Thank you. Glad to be there.
Awesome. So this is a really interesting conversation because these are, from my viewpoint, two of the most accomplished investors, operators in the Seattle ecosystem. And they actually go way back and have known each other for a long time and have worked together very closely for a long time. So I thought it'd be great to kick it off with, why don't you guys introduce yourselves very briefly, and let's talk about how you guys first met.
So that sounds great. So I'm Matt McElwain. I'm one of the managing directors at Madrona Venture Group. Madrona is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. Founded here in Seattle, dedicated and committed to the Seattle ecosystem. Just love having everybody out here for the whole week and for this event in particular. And we're investing out of our 10th fund. It's a $770 million fund, and we will get involved as early as possible, day one for the long run. That's kind of the short Madrona story. Greg and I met in Indianapolis at a distribution center for a wholesale distributor of office products. And that is not what you would expect for two people that ended up becoming partners together in a venture capital firm for many years. So maybe Greg can tell us why we met at that distribution center in Indianapolis.
Well, what I remember is the dinner we had after at the Howard Johnson's, where you recommended the filet mignon or something like that.
The steak dinner in Indianapolis at the Howard Johnson's, very good.
So early days of Madrona, we were looking to add a partner, and we had been working with Matt on a company that was called Your School Shop, or Greater Good, as it later became known. And Matt was a partner of that company, helping it to grow as a startup in his role at SP Richards, where he was leading business development.
Pulling out a name there, that's impressive.
Yes, and we just were really impressed with our interactions and meetings with Matt, and we all and some of the original folks at Madrona sat around. We said, hey, who do we think would be a great partner? And all of us said Matt. So we flew out and had a discussion with him about that company, but then ultimately convinced really his wife to move to, that maybe it made sense to move to Seattle, which I think changed the trajectory, frankly, of this whole region. So
you're being very kind.
Yeah. So I'm Greg Gottesman, founder and managing director of a firm called Pioneer Square Labs. We invest early out of our venture fund, and we also have a startup studio as well, where we incubate companies. And just a pleasure to be here with all of you, and can't wait to dig in.
Awesome. So we've got a lot of great founders in the room. A lot of them are fundraising. So I'm curious, from your perspectives, if you had just 5 minutes to meet with a founder and you had to decide you were going to invest $5 million or not, what would you ask them?
I love this question. I mean, I don't know what I would ask them, but what I would be listening for is, something that we call founder market fit. And the simple version of founder market fit is when founders come walking in the door, are they absolutely obsessed about the problem they're trying to solve? Can they not go to sleep at night because they're trying to figure out how can this problem that may have existed for many years or may only exist now because of the things that have happened in the world of technology, in the world of society changing, how do I solve that problem? And why can I now solve that problem better than it's ever been solved before? And then why am I going to build this solution to solving that problem? Which, by the way, is the thing that people are often directionally correct and specifically wrong at the earliest stages. Because you got to iterate, you got to be curious, you got to learn and be adaptable. But then at the end of all of that, the most important thing that we're listening for, and I'm listening for, is why this team that has taken their time to chat with us is convinced they're the ones that are going to solve that problem with their solution in this time and space. And if they are compelled by that, there is founder market fit there, and then I would want to dig in deeper.
Yeah, I mean, Matt and I worked together for a long time, so share a lot of those same thoughts. The way I would encapsulate that is I'm looking in those first 5 minutes, do I believe that this team can be best in the world at something? Very specific. So obviously there's a big vision, but do I really believe that this particular team or person can be better than anyone else in the world at something small but meaningful? And I think most great companies start that way. The other thing I'm looking for, frankly, is self-awareness from that founder. I want to see if that founder has a good idea about what makes him or her strong, what holes that person needs to fill, because that's so important to building a team and understanding sort of where that person feels like they are uniquely talented to do a certain thing, and realize that they're not talented at everything, and there's other places where they're like, hey, this is why I hired this person, or these are some things I need to be able to accomplish what Matt just alluded to. So I'm looking for both what could they be best in the world at, and then also a real sense of self, which comes over time for most entrepreneurs.
Where is the Seattle market today, and where do you guys see it going over the next 10 years?
Gosh, I'm excited about the Seattle market. I think AI grows particularly well here. There was a recent survey about where the AI talent in the United States resides. And I think it was Silicon Valley, 35% of AI talent, Seattle, 23%. But ours, 23% is more than Boston, New York, LA combined. Now, a lot of that is at the big companies, the Amazons, the Microsofts, Google's headquarters, Facebook's, their office here, Facebook, some of the larger companies, but a lot of it's also in startups. So I just feel like we have such incredible talent in the right areas, and that's sort of at the infrastructure layer, as well as at the application layer around AI. I think that puts us in really good position to create one of the next great iconic companies, as we already did 2 times with Microsoft and Amazon, but really create one of the next iconic companies. Couldn't possibly be more bullish on this region for that. Now, I am nervous about some of the things that are our city and our state and our region is doing to try to prevent that from happening, but that's maybe a different topic. But I am very, very, very bullish on Seattle, and particularly in the AI space.
So if you take what Greg says and you say, okay, I'm buying into that, I think the question I would have for all of you is, do you actually believe that this AI revolution, I call it the reasoning revolution, is as big as the technological revolution of the 20th century and as big and consequential as the industrial revolution of the 19th century? And if you believe that, and you believe it's going to happen faster than either of those other massive, economic and societal revolutions, and you're in the place which has 23% of the top tier talent, how can we not in the next 10 years do incredible, transformative, daring things here in the greater Seattle ecosystem? And I think that's why our conviction is so high, because we do believe that. I do think we are in the era of the reasoning revolution. I do think that it's all at its foundation on this construct called reasoning machines. And those reasoning machines are going to be deployed, whether it's digitally or manifested physically, as reasoning flywheels. The really different thing about this revolution than the other 2 revolutions is the things that were built in those revolutions depreciated rapidly. In this revolution, there is something that depreciates. It's models. Who uses GPT-2? And GPT-2 was the state of the art 3 years ago. So models in and of themselves depreciate, but intelligent applications and agentic workflows tend to have a flywheel effect effect that goes with data, that is leveraging models in the context of workflows, that then make decisions and take actions, that gives you more data. RL typically is the technique being used to accelerate that flywheel. That's an appreciating asset, not a depreciating asset, and it's at the core of why the next 10 years is going to be fundamentally different in this revolution.
And you guys both started your career around the time where the dot-com boom was happening. What is different this time around with the AI boom compared to that?
Well, the order of magnitude of difference in the global and domestic economy is pretty profound. In 1995, these are not inflation-adjusted numbers, but just to give you a sense of it. In 1995, the combined market cap of the top 30 by market cap companies in the world. Anybody want to venture a guess? $2 trillion. Okay. 10 years ago, 11 actually, 2014, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Google, Meta, combined market cap, $2 trillion. Today, those same 6 companies, any guesses? $17 trillion in market cap, just the top 6. And by the way, they are the top 6 of all companies in the world, and they're all technology companies. In the 30 years ago, I think there was IBM and AT&T, counting as the tech companies in that list of 30. Most of them were oil companies and other such, and banks. So that is a transformative dynamic in and of itself, vis-a-vis the time of the internet. The internet was also incredibly disruptive because it unlocked information and it unlocked collaboration at its core in ways that had not been possible in the past. But now we're unlocking reasoning. And whether it's a reasoning machine that as Andrej Karpathy puts it, I'm going to have some kind of a partial autonomy relationship with, or it's a reasoning machine that I'm going to send off to do tasks in some form, either in my work context or my personal context, there is so much lift from those types of machines that is much greater than just connecting us from an information perspective and connecting us from ultimately a transactional perspective, which was the magic of the internet. So very, very excited about what we can do of reasoning machines that are both general purpose reasoning machines and very specific reasoning machines. I have a certain personal passion, as Greg knows, for applying reasoning machines to the world of life sciences and finding cures for cancer. And have dedicated the last 12 plus years of my life now to helping with that cause. And, biology is a complicated beast, but we're going to make a ton of progress with having almost infinite reasoning machines to help understand it better.
Yeah, that's awesome that you really have dedicated incredible amounts of time to that through Fred Hutch and as well as Madrona. I think there's a lot of things that are the same, actually, with the internet time. One of the things that I remember was that there was this great article, Amazon.bomb, if you remember. And so many people that are outside of our little bubble. This is a bubble, by the way, in case you're wondering what we are in here. This is a bubble within a bubble. Seattle is a bubble. You get outside of this area, there's a lot of people that don't think AI is a thing. They don't. Most people, they don't really think of AI as being transformative yet. They don't see it. And I think that's similar this time. And I think another thing that's similar is most of the companies that we invest in and that get started will fail. That happened back in the internet time too. There was a lot of failure. Huge numbers of startups, huge numbers of failures. But directionally, where the internet was going, I don't think anyone would say that it was underhyped, that it was overhyped. If anything, it was underhyped. And I think, again, with this reasoning revolution with AI, I think if anything, it's underhyped in terms of the impact it's going to have. I think where I think we've all missed, including those of us who were the most positive on AI, is how fast it is moving. I mean, it is one of the things that's different is that AI is moving at a pace that I'm just, even having done this for almost 30 years, I'm unfamiliar with this pace of change. It's just happening so fast. Every week, every month, there's new model developments. I don't know if any of you are playing with this Comet browser from Perplexity. Now there's 2 more. I mean, just the level of change and advance and your ability to sort of envision what that future might look like is unlike anything I've ever seen. So it's exciting. I think the most important characteristic for all of us right now is just to be intensely, insanely curious. Just curious. When I talk to my kids, I'm like, just lean in. Be curious about everything, because whatever you think, is going to happen in the future, I guarantee you, it's not going to be that. It'll be something different. But if you're curious, you'll figure it out.
And with that being said, we're seeing so many startups scale super fast. And I mean, I think Lovable was I think they broke the record of 0 to 100 million ARR. It was 12 months or something like that, maybe a year and a half. So is there still a moat with all these AI applications being built, or does that not exist anymore?
I think the moat's different. So one is that, as Greg says, it's never been a more disruptive time. That's the good news. The bad news is it's never been a less durable time. And so you ask this question about moat. I mean, we're in Bolt, so you got Bolt, Lovable, Vercel V0, Figma's building its thing. There's a lot of, and all those companies either, if you're in the know, they've all grown to tens and tens of millions of revenue. I'm not sure Lovable's quite at 100 yet, but we can all speculate on that. And so there's a whole bunch in that space. But what's going to make them durable? And if they stay there, or here's another example, we're investors in Read.ai, tens of millions in revenue, millions and millions of monthly active users. They know if they stay what they do today, which is providing you with super high quality instant meeting recaps, they're going to be in trouble. So they're innovating right now and doing it in a very rapid way. I think there is a pattern going back to this concept of the reasoning flywheels, where you maybe are able to start with other people's data. So let's take what Cursor did, right? I mean, happily there was all kinds of open coding repositories and stuff that was available. And you might even be able to start with other people's models. Cursor, they were using Anthropic's models, other people's models, right? And then they built a very good UI UX. Don't underestimate how the multi-sensory UI UX is going to evolve here in the months and years ahead. And they got engagement. And that engagement gave them value proposition for a set of customers. It gave them their own unique data, which they can then refine other people's models and ultimately build their own models, build a model router on top. So now you've got something that has data, a reasoning machine, this kind of mixture of models. I like to call them model cocktails. And then you've got a workflow, and then you've got new data, and it becomes a flywheel. That's this reasoning flywheel. If you can do that in some domain space, we've got a company called Gradial that does this in marketing content execution. I think that's a pretty durable pattern. You can do it in life sciences. And so thinking about that as a way to build your moat, there's a lot of trickiness to it. If you then let your data leak into the main models, then the ChatGPTs and Anthropics and others are going to eat your lunch someday. So you got to be careful about that. If you sell your data soul to some big player to get 10 or $50 million up front, good luck with you 2 years from now. So there's a lot of tough strategic choices to make, but I think that's the durable moat formula, generically speaking.
I would just add that I think you have to think beyond where we've typically thought about ways to build moat. So for example, historically you could build a moat just around the IP associated with your technology, which I still think there are ways, if you have data advantages, other things, to build an IP, a level of IP moat. But I think you need to think about business model, for example. I think business models will change. Outcome-based pricing, more of a services type model. I mean, there are ways for you to think about how to build defensibility that are different than historically where you might have thought. UX, Matt mentioned. The way in which you have a user experience. I think there can be some interesting new ways to have UX be a certain type of mode if you sort of rethought that in a way. So again, I would just encourage, if you have a startup in this AI space, is to not be sort of so set on SaaS. Oh gosh, SaaS has been the way it's been done for the last 10 years. Well, there may be new ways to price, new ways to sell, new ways to deliver a service that AI enables, and I would really be thinking about how your company can differentiate that way.
Yeah, let me add one more example. I mentioned before, I think we're going to see a pretty cool reemergence of consumer opportunities. But if I have my own personal travel agent, if I have my own personal health and fitness agent, if I have my own personal, clothes shopping agent, and I need some help, Pablo's told me that a few times. But at any rate, if I had those agents, right, they're working for me. This is not a sell-side world anymore. The whole concept of advertising changes. When I power my agent to go gather information and gather offers on my behalf, and maybe I give my agent a cut, for helping me out. But it's my agent. It's not Nordstrom's agent. It's not Amazon's agent. So I think there is a lot of opportunity in rethinking how the business models are going to develop over time.
That's a great perspective. And we do have to get to the next session pretty soon, but in closing, what would be one piece of advice that you would give for all the founders in the room? Some of them idea stage, some of them have revenue, a lot of them looking to raise, and it's a difficult market. What piece of advice would you give to them?
The customer is always smarter than the venture capitalist. Listen to your customers. Always.
The one piece of advice I would give, I think, would be the same piece of advice that I give, most folks, which is surround yourself with the most incredible people you can, and try to fill holes for yourself. Don't just hire people that are exactly like yourself. Look for people that hopefully you want to work with, but also that have different perspectives that bring something new to your team. So I would just say, again, people. So obviously customers is a great one, but just real focus on, a maniacal focus on making sure that you're building the best possible team that you can build. And then I think you'll be in much better shape.
So people first. And we have some incredible people here in the room today, so I hope you all get a chance to mingle after the conversations. Let's give them a round.